My pranams to all Atma Jyotis, divine light of the self. Today let us contemplate on teachings of Mahavakya or the great sayings of Upanishad. We'll continue with the thought process of Sri Atmananda Krishna Manu. Now let us inquire into our waking state experience. Okay, in waking state experience, the consciousness is identified with the object. The consciousness and the object are joined together. There are various experiences. Okay, I see something, I hear something, I touch something, I smell something. If you look very closely, these are activities of the body and mind. Okay, activities, actions of the body and mind. Right? The actions can happen kaya, vacha, manasa, buddhya. Kaya means physically, vacha means mentally, vacha means verbally, manasa means mentally, and buddhya means intellectually. There are 4 different types of actions possible. Okay. When I walk, when I do something, there is a physical action. Right? The action has a limitation. You act for some time and there is inaction. Action followed by inaction. Action followed by inaction. Right? I cannot keep doing something all the time with the physical body. I cannot keep walking. I have to rest. Action is there, inaction is there. Action and inaction is the nature of activity. Are we clear? So I say I am walking, I am resting. Okay. When I am walking and when I am resting, I am walking, I am associated with the body. I is associated with the body, and I am resting, I associated with the rest. So what has changed is the position of the activity of the body has changed, but I has not changed. I principle has not changed. Are you able to notice that? The activity can change. Activity can be one activity or other activity. Activity can be followed by inaction. But the I principle does not change. It is there, present in action and inaction. Without understanding the nature of the self, we are mixing up the activity with the activity with the self. The self is joined with the activity. But if you look closely, there is no activity for the self. Because self is same in movement and not movement. The activity is always related to the body, the physical activity. Right? Movement, dancing, walking, all these things are related to the body. So I say I am walking, I am dancing. What we are doing is I am principle, I am mixing up with the walking. The walking cannot go on forever. Walking, there should be a period of rest. So I am resting. But I am, nothing has happened, no change has happened in the I am. The I principle, there is no change at all. Right? Unconsciously we are mixing up the I principle, the I am with the body, which is activity. Okay. So activity goes on, and sometimes there is rest, sometimes there is no activity. But the knowing is not an activity. I know when I am walking. I know when I am resting. The knowing principle doesn't change. Knowing principle is not an activity of the self. Knowing principle is the nature of the self. Knowing is not an activity. The witnessing is not an activity. Activity has a beginning and end. The witnessing is a continuous process. Witnessing doesn't stop at any point of time. Can you notice that? You are aware when you are not eating. You are aware when you are eating. Okay? You are aware when you are awake. You are aware when you are asleep. In deep sleep, you are aware of the absence of any other activity. So the awareness or knowing principle is unchanging in all the states. Are we clear? So knowing is not a function of the mind. Knowing is the function of the self. Knowing is going on continuously in all the states, whether the mind is present or mind is absent. In the deep sleep, there is no mind, but there is knowing that there is no mind. The knowing principle or awareness is there all the time. In deep sleep also, I know that there is nothing. The knowing goes on with or without the mind. Right? So what we are doing is, we are mixing up the activity with the knowing as activity. Knowing also we are taking as activity. Knowing is not an activity. Knowing is my nature. You understand? Knowing is my nature. Knowing principle doesn't separate from me. It is always with me. It is my nature. It's my swarupa. I am of the nature of Jnana Swarupa. I am of the nature of awareness. I exist all the time in the waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, and my awareness is always there with me. I cannot separate myself from the awareness. If I ask a question, do you exist? You say I exist. That means existence. Are you aware? Yes, I am aware. Okay. Can there be awareness without existence? Can there be existence without awareness? Existence and awareness is one reality. They are not two separate entities. Existence and awareness is my nature. Okay? So I am aware in all, I am present in all the activities. The boss, I am the self. Self is present in all the activities. But by mistake I am thinking that activities are done, the activities are superimposed on the self. For example, when I am walking, I say, when the body is walking, I say I am walking. Really there are two activities happening, two things are happening. The body is walking and I am aware that the body is walking. Right? The walking can stop. Walking cannot go forever. But I am aware that walking has stopped.
Awareness is going forever.
Awareness is continuous. Awareness is not an activity. Awareness is not an activity of the self. Are you able to distinguish that? Awareness is the nature of the self. You have to distinguish between the activity of the self and nature of the self. Activity is done through the body, mind, intellect. Kaya, vak, manasa, buddhya. Physically, mentally, verbally or intellectually. The four kinds of activities done. Activity is done by an instrument, but the self is the knowing principle which is present in all the activities. The knowing is not an activity at all. Knowing is my nature. It is like a lamp on the stage. The lamp throws out the light. The actors come and dance. The lamp shows the actors have come and dancing. The actors go, stage is empty. The lamp shows the stage is empty. The lamp is not involved in action. The lamp is not involved in dancing. Lamp is involved only in showing.
Here the lamp is the knowing principle.
The lamp is the knowing principle, which is my own nature. Okay? The knowing principle knows whether the activities are happening or not happening. Whether it's a presence of activity or absence of activity. Right? The presence and absence both are known. But by mistake, the mind superimposes the activity on the self. The self doesn't undergo any changes other than knowing. So this you can see in a beautiful, you can imagine in a, you go to, nowadays there are 4D movies and 5D movies. Okay? 4D movies and 5D movies. You put on the goggles. Okay? It's a virtual reality show. So suddenly you start feeling that you are in space. And suddenly you see that you are on a mountain top and start falling from a mountain top. Okay? Nothing is happening to you. The knowing principle, you are the knower. You are the knowing principle. The sense organs are doing the input and you feel as if you are falling. There's nothing happening to the knowing principle of self. Whatever actions are happening to the body and mind, nothing is happening to the knowing principle. The body, mind and instruments. Just like a virtual reality show where we are experiencing the fall from a mountain, in reality we are sitting and not doing anything. That activity is superimposed on the knowing principle, self, by the sense organs. The exactly same thing is happening with our body-mind complex. The actions are superimposed on the knowing principle. The knowing principle or the self, which I called as I principle, is not at all affected by any activity. And knowing is not an activity. Knowing is a continuous process. The knowing is my nature. That's called awareness. That's called self. Self is awareness. So you should separate, you should understand the distinction between knowing and doing. Doing has a stop. Doing is followed by non-doing. But doing and non-doing, both doing and non-doing, the self is involved as the awareness principle. Awareness is knowing. There's no stop to knowing at any point of time. Whether the body is there or body is not there. Mind is there or mind is not there. In deep sleep, body is not there, mind is not there. The knowing principle doesn't stop working. Because it's your nature. You cannot stop your nature. The self-nature. And that's called awareness, or that's called chit, consciousness. Is this clear? And this knowing principle, when it operates through different instruments, the world appears as different. The objects appear as different. When the knowing principle operates through sense organs, eyes, we see the world as form. When the knowing principle operates through the ears, we see the world as sound. These are different instruments. Eyes are different instruments, ears are different instruments. When you use the different instrument, the world is seen differently. The same thing happens. When you use a red goggle, the world appears red. When you use a pink goggle, the world appears pink. World is neither red nor pink. Your instrument of viewing gives a perspective of what you see. So the world is seen as forms when you see through eyes. World is seen as sound when you hear through ears. Right? World is seen as a touch when you use the body or the skin. World is seen as smell when you use the sense organ called nose. But you are none of these. You are just knowing principle, which is knowing the world through these sense organs. Knowing principle, nothing is happening. No change is happening. Is this clear? You use a microscope, you see the bacteria, you see the virus with the microscope. You use a telescope, you see the galaxies. The instrument is changed, the world way it appears, it changes. The appearance of the world changes. But the one who is seeing it, there is no change. The seer. The seer is you. The seer is the consciousness. Seer is the awareness. There is no change in the seer. Depending on the instrument which you see, that is a different perspective. Correct? So when you see the world through five sense organs, world appears as five different forms. Now these sense organs are very limited in nature. Each sense organ has a very limitation. Your eyes have very limited. Compared to the eyes of an eagle, your eyes have very limited bandwidth. Compared to the ears of a bat, your ears are very limited. Each of our sense organs is very limited. So with these limited sense organs, we are trying to make a sense of the world. So what we see there, out there is not the world, but what our sense organs are saying. We have never seen what reality out there. What we are seeing, only what our sense organs are showing. So, what reality out there is conditioned by our sense organs. Is this clear? A person who is colorblind will never see a world which is with colors. So, these sense organs are like five blind men trying to give us the input. Whatever input. And that input is useful. But I have to distinguish between the sense organs and activity of sense organs and the seer of that, the knowing principle who is using this, who is knowing this. The knowing principle is I principle, Atma, the Sakshi, the witness is the knowing principle. It is the continuous awareness of what's going on with whatever sense organs, whatever the instruments we have. Through the body, we see the world as objects. Through the mind, we see the world as thoughts. The same world is seen as thoughts. The instrument is changed now. The body is the instrument I see as an object. The instrument is mind now. It is nothing but thoughts. Right? So now actually if you think of anything, America is a thought. If it's through eyes, if you see America is a place. If you in your mind, America is a thought. The same word becomes a thought in the mind. Correct? The experience of the world is a sensation in the body. Right? A feeling in the mind. So you are using different instruments, the body, mind and intellect, to experience the world in different ways. And at the intellectual level, the world is nothing but just an idea. So we are using different instruments continuously, the body, mind, intellect, and experiencing the world or so-called world in different ways. We never know what the world out is there. We can only perceive the world through limitations of these organs, instruments.
Conditioned perception.
There is a conditioned perception we are having of the world. We have never seen a world out there. We have seen what is shown by limited sense organs. Now the limited sense organs also is what you call sensing, feeling, touching. All these are activities. But I am principle, the I principle is present in all these activities. And I principle is the one which knows, knowing. We are mixing up the knowing principle with the activity of sense organs. Activities come and go, activities stop, but knowing principle doesn't stop. I am the knowing principle independent of these activities of the sense organs or the body. Is that clear? Any doubts? Any questions? Consciousness is the knowing principle. Consciousness is always the knowing principle. It cannot be known as an object. These are the instruments. The mind is the instrument, the body is the instrument, intellect is the instrument. Instrument cannot know the knowing principle, knower. The knowing principle can use the instruments to see something or know to experience something. But the instruments cannot experience the knowing principle. Instrument cannot understand knowing principle. For example, I can use my glasses. For example, I can use my glasses to see the world. But glasses cannot see my eyes. Can the glasses see my eyes? I can use my ears to hear the sounds of the world, but ears cannot know me, know the knowing principle. Knowing principle can use the instrument. Ears is an instrument. Instrument cannot know the self, which is the knowing principle. So the body is an instrument, the mind is an instrument, intellect is thought. Mind is an instrument which generates thoughts. The thoughts are produced in the mind. Thoughts can be about the object, but thoughts cannot be about the subject. The mind cannot know the knowing principle. It's as good as saying, I can use a telescope and see, I can use a telescope and see the galaxy. But can telescope see me, the seer? I am the seeing principle. The body, mind and intellect cannot see the seeing principle, the knowing principle. Right? So then these instruments fail when the knowing principle is there. That's why Ramana Maharshi asks, who are you? Question is asked to whom? To the mind. Can the mind know the self? Can the mind know the knowing principle? Mind cannot know the knowing principle. Then mind will become silent. Mind can tell about anything, mind can comment about anything, politics, mathematics, physics, anything in the world. But the moment it comes to the self or consciousness, mind becomes silent, because self is not an object. Self is the seer who is using the mind as an instrument. Are you able to understand the distinction? The knowing principle is continuous. The mind also is an instrument. It also stops operating for some time. In the coma, in the unconsciousness, in deep sleep, the mind stops operation. But the knowing principle, the knowing principle, the awareness will never stop functioning. So the mind cannot know the self. Right? The intellect is very great instrument which human beings have. With the intellect we have been able to find. We have to go to space. We have explored the solar system. We have done everything with the intellect. But the intellect itself cannot know the self. Okay? As an object, as an idea. The self can be known as, I am the self. I am the self is an idea in the intellect. That I am the self, I am the awareness, it replaces all of the wrong idea about the self. I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. All these wrong ideas about the self is replaced by I am knowing principle, I am awareness, I am the self. This idea can come in the intellect. Right? You can know the self as I am the self, rather than you cannot know the self as an object. You cannot know the self as a thought. You cannot know the self as an idea. You can know the self as I am the self. I am awareness. I am knowing principle. Is this clear? So when I see the consciousness, when I use the instruments, I see you. Okay? When I see through the eyes, you are the consciousness appearing as a body. You are also consciousness. You are a conscious principle. You are not an object. But when I see through my eyes can only show the form. Eyes cannot see the consciousness. So the consciousness is converted into a form. And the body keeps changing. Okay? So the changing body is superimposed on the consciousness, which is unchanging knowing principle. When you see through the eyes, the consciousness appears as an object. When you see through the mind, the consciousness appears as a changing thoughts. Objects are changing, objects also continue to change, thoughts also change. But unconsciousness, the unknowing, unchanging principle doesn't change. All these objects are lit up by consciousness, are illuminated by consciousness. I can see the TV because the TV is in my awareness. I know that my knowing principle is throwing light of knowing on the TV. Light of awareness. I can see the TV in the presence of light of awareness. Light of the self, Atma Jyoti. I am able to see the TV. Right? So what exactly I am seeing? I am seeing only the light of the self reflected on the TV. I am seeing the light of the self reflected in the world. Atma Jyoti reflected in the world. Objects of the world are changing.
Does it mean that because of the awareness I am able to see that?
Yes. The light of self is awareness.
Awareness.
Light of self means awareness. Right? So objects of the world are changing. The body is changing. The mind is changing. And actually I am seeing the reflected light on these objects. Reflected light of awareness, knowing principle. These are seen in awareness. So because of the changing principle, the awareness itself or the knowing principle itself appears to be changing. It's not changing.
What does knowing principle changing mean?
See, we are mixing up the changing, unchanging with the changing. Right? When I am sitting in a boat, the tree appears to be moving. The tree is not moving. Boat is moving. When I am sitting in a train, my train appears to be moving, whereas next train appears to be moving. There is a superimposition which is happening.
Oh, you mean to say self appears to be changing?
Self appears to be changing. So the knowing principle is unchanging principle, but activities make the appear and the knowing principle also as appears to be changing.
But how activities will change the mind principle?
No, you are mixing up yourself with the activity, no?
It's something like
Activity, if you analyze properly, knowing principle doesn't change. But people mix up the activity with the knowing principle. They say, I am the body because activity of body is made into superimposed on the knowing principle.
No, when he says knowing principle, he is meaning self.
Self. See, when
Because
the
the
self,
word is confusing, Guruji.
knowing principle is self, I.
Okay, when I am talking, the body is talking, then who is exactly talking?
The body is talking and I am aware that body is talking.
So I'm aware the body is talking, which means I does not have any activity.
The self has no activity. Self is only knowing,
Self is witnessing.
witnessing.
So in the same way, other person is talking, which means that person, the activity is shown. But if I really think that only person activity is shown, but the self is not doing anything.
Self is just knowing principle, knows what's going on.
And that self and this self is nothing but the same. And the other person's self and this self is nothing but the same.
Yeah, self or consciousness is same in everybody. When other person is speaking also, his body is speaking, but I superimpose
That's
the body on the self.
So if I say the body is talking, there is no superimposition or mixing, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So otherwise there is a superimposition or mixing up happening. Activities of the body, mind and intellect is mixed up with the activity of knowing, consciousness. Consciousness is not activity. Consciousness is the nature. Okay. So the knowing doesn't stop, but activities come and go. These activities are superimposed on the knowing principle. Okay. The self is not a doer at all. Self or my nature is just knowing, not an activity. So the mix up is happening, mixing up the activity with the knowing principle. Okay, can the self be experienced directly? Self knows all the activities of the body, mind and intellect. Right? When there is no activity of the body and mind and intellect, what does self do? There is no self, body, mind and intellect are instruments. Okay? The self knows what is going on through the body, mind and intellect, the knowing principle. Right? Through the body it experiences the world as objects. Through the mind it experiences the world as thoughts. Right? It knows the world as thoughts. It experiences the world as feelings, emotions, right? Feelings. If there is no instrument, activities are stopped, then what self does?
It knows that it
Witnessing.
stops.
Witnessing there is
It
no
knows that-
activity.
It knows that all activities are stopped. And now it knows itself also. Because otherwise attention is outside. Right? Whatever comes to the attention of self knows. My attention goes to the fan, I know about fan. My attention is going to the TV, I know about the TV. The knowing principle, whatever is in the attention of the knowing attention, whatever is in the span of attention, the knowing principle comes to know about it. If my attention is on the sunlight, I know about the sunlight as perception or as a feeling or a thought. Depending on what type of instrument I use, the knowing principle uses, the self uses, the I principle uses, I get that experience. Is that clear? Now what if all the experiences are stopped? All instruments are stopped. You are not using any instrument. Then what will happen to you?
Be the self.
I know that on
Then the self knows that there are no instruments. All instruments are switched off. There is nothing to know. Okay? This is known in deep sleep. All instruments are switched off. The body is not there, the mind is not there, intellect is not there. Then what is there? Self is there. There is no object to know. The self knows itself as bliss. The self knows itself as Ananda in deep sleep. Others it's busy watching other things, activities through body mind complex.
Connection is going on.
Self knows itself in deep sleep. If in the waking state I know that as object because of the body. Mind, because of mind I know as a thought. Finally I don't have anything to know because then all instruments are switched off. Then what I know? There's no instrument. I know myself directly. The self knows itself directly. When self knows itself directly, it's called bliss, Ananda.
no instruments, that's what it is.
That's why it said, meditate. What means meditate? Means switch off the mind, switch off the body, switch off the intellect, or reduce the activities of the body, mind, and intellect. Then bliss of yourself is experienced. Now otherwise you are too busy using the instruments. You are addicted to instruments that we know nowadays. Mobile phone, WhatsApp. You are continuously on the mobile phone and WhatsApp. Like that, this body and mind and intellect is also in a WhatsApp, a mobile phone, an instrument. The self is busy watching the instrument. Keep some time instrument in a silent condition. That's called meditation. Then the self has nothing to experience now. It experiences the bliss of itself. Self knows itself as bliss, Ananda. It's not an object, it is a subject. That experience you have in deep sleep anyway, all the time. That deep sleep experience, if you want to recreate in the waking state, you meditate. Silent, make your mind silent. Otherwise, Atma Dhyana is not because of meditation. Atma Dhyana is because of understanding this process through Atma Vichara. Because ignorance of the mind is removed, then you know the self. Mind is creating the confusion, superimposing the self with the non-self. Self-realization and meditation don't confuse. Meditation is to experience the bliss of the self, switching off the instruments. Self-enquiry is to remove the ignorance of the mind in the waking state, the mixing habit of the mind mixing up the self with the non-self. Knowing principle with the activity of the body-mind complex, the superimposition you have to reduce. This is through self-enquiry. Is the distinction clear? So this is taught in the Upanishads. Upanishads tell this as Mahavakya or teaching, great sayings. These great sayings are taken from 4 different Upanishads. Upanishads are the concluding part of all Vedas. It's the last section of Vedas. Vedas means knowledge. Upanishad means the concluding part of the knowledge or the essence of teaching of Vedas. The Mahavakya or the essence of Mahavakya is the essence of Upanishads. That means Mahavakya represents the entire teaching of Vedas. So the great Mahavakya is one of the great, there are 4 great teachings chosen from different Upanishads. Tattvamasi, you are that, is the teaching. Now here the realized master, the guru, teaches the disciple that you are the knowing principle. You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the intellect. Don't confuse yourself with the activities of the body, mind and intellect. Knowing is not an activity, knowing is your nature. Awareness is your nature. That awareness is you and that awareness is called Brahman. Tattvamasi means you are Brahman. This is the teaching given by Guru. Your Brahman means consciousness, awareness, knowing principle. You are the knowing principle. Right now I am confusing myself with the body, which is doing principle. I am confusing the mind, which is thinking principle. I am confusing the intellect, which is ideation principle. Ideation. Instruments. I am confusing myself with the instruments. This confusion normally happens to us also. When we are sitting in a 5D show or a virtual reality show, if I put a glasses, I suddenly start seeing I am sitting on top of a mountain and falling. Nothing is happening. I am mixing up the experience with the knowing principle. Right? So the Guru teaches Tattvamasi, this is called Upadesha Vakya. It's a guidance of a living master. You are that. So the purpose of teaching you are that is not a education, not to give you more information. For you to recognize the truth and start living the truth. It's not one more thing, one more information to be added to your memory. Right? So then, what is Tat? Tat means Brahman. So the student contemplates, I am Brahman. Brahman means infinity. Brahman means totality. Brahat means infinity. The totality. Okay. Student is still not aware of the self. First level student contemplates on the I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Means I am all this. Are you all this? Yes, you are all this. If you see this, you are actually mixing up your with sense organs and the mind. Right? The body, mind and intellect you are mixing up. So now you see a star. Okay? You see a planet. Everything is in your mind. Okay? The I thought is also in the mind. So in reality, I am all this. When I take my position as mind, I am mind, right? Mind is all this. Is it not? Whatever you can see, whatever you can think, whatever you cannot think, whatever exists, whatever doesn't exist, everything is a concept in the mind. When I am the mind, I am everything. I am the world. Is it not?
Guruji, I am seeing the star, so I am everything. He also sees the same star.
You also see him, no? In his, don't worry about him. You worry about solve your problem. He solves his problem.
No, it's not about problem. Are we all seeing one universal mind, or?
See, the consciousness is same now. When you say I, is a consciousness, same consciousness. Wherever the attention goes, the knowledge is there. So the consciousness through your eyes Wherever the attention goes, that knowledge is there for that particular body mind complex. Knowledge is there in the body mind complex. Instrument is the body mind complex. The knowing principle is same. Right? It's like one scientist sitting in a laboratory using 100 instruments. Each instrument is recording something. But he is the one who is seeing all the instruments. There's only one knowing principle. Okay? So, in one sense, I am all this. Can you think of I am all this? Is it easy to think? All this is in my mind here. The entire physical world, what you call world, which is huge, stars, galaxies are there. But where are they? They are in my mind. They are in my body. The entire universe is nothing but a small picture in my body, and the universe is in my mind. The entire universe is in myself. I am that universe. I am the totality. Is it understandable or not understandable? Is it complicated to understand? Huh? Yeah. So the physical world is called Bhuta Akasha, the entire outer space. The outer space is in the mental space. Entire world, outer space is nothing but thoughts in the mind. The Bhuta Akasha is Chitta Akasha. Is it difficult to understand? So I am considering myself as a body. I cannot separate out anything from my body and the mind. So I am the mind, and as the mind I am the totality of the universe. Is it clear? Is it understandable? So this is called Aham Brahmasmi. The totality of the universe is called Ishvara. Okay. So Aham Brahmasmi has a first level of meaning called I am one with the Ishvara. It's like wave says I am one with the water or ocean. I am one with the totality of existence. Everything in the universe is existence. The star exists, planet exists, sun exists, moon exists, my body exists, I exist. As existence, I am this totality. I am infinite. Is it difficult to understand? The totality of existence is called Ishvara, the Bhagavan, the Lord. So I am one with the Lord. There is no separation between I and the world. So I am the world in that sense. Is it clear? So this is the first level understanding of Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi is the next Mahavakya. Tattvamasi is the first teaching. Tattvamasi is the Upadesha Vakya. Aham Brahmasmi is the Mahavakya, which is I am Brahman. I am Brahman means I am infinity. How I am infinity? The entire physical world is in my mental space. The entire mental space is in my consciousness space. Bhuta Akasha is in my Chitta Akasha, Chitta Akasha in Chidakasha. In that sense, I am that infinity. I am that infinite world. What about name and form? The name and form you ignore because everything is existence. As existence, I am infinite. So if you meditate on this, right? If you meditate, you are infinite because you are existence. What will happen to your ego? Gayatri. When you meditate, I am infinite. So what will happen to your ego? Ego will expand. It will merge with the universal ego. Right? Earlier your ego was getting hurt. I am small, I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. Now you merge your identity with the universal identity. Merge. Then you feel connected to totality of the universe. You feel oneness with the universe. This is called love or devotion, bhakti. I am one with the totality of the universe. This is the first level meaning of Aham Brahmasmi. Right? Is it clear? Now the ego has merged with the universal identity. Universality. With the Ishvara, the totality of existence. Ego is there. Now it's a better ego. The bigger ego. So small things you don't feel hurt, but you feel love because the totality of creation is part and parcel of yourself. Right? This is the first level meditation of Aham Brahmasmi. I am one with the Ishvara. I am My consciousness is same as Ishvara consciousness, totality consciousness. Is it clear or simple? So in this process what will happen, your small ego gets erased. Your small petty nature of jealousy, hatred, anger will reduce. You will feel love for all. You see that oneness in all. This is the first level of realization. This is the Aham Brahmasmi first level understanding. Are we getting what I am saying? Then this Aham also has a personal identity, because I am one with all. I is a personal I. The personal ego has become the larger ego, part of the larger ego. The wave has become part of the ocean. The personal identity ego has acquired a larger proportion. You understand? But ego is still a ego. Identity. This is an identity.
Earlier we had a small ego, now with bigger.
Now it's a bigger ego. But the bigger ego has a better functioning. Right? Now it is a love. The hatred is gone. Jealousy is gone by and large. There is love for all. I am one with the Ishvara. I am the totality. Brahman, Brahat. Okay? So Brahman has two meanings. Please understand. The Brahman has the first level of meaning is Brahman is called Ishvara. The totality of existence. Because it's Brahat. Are you getting what I am saying? So I am the totality. I am a consciousness. I am conscious of the totality. That's why I am one with the. I am that consciousness, when which everything is appearing. Right? Still by focus on the object only, the world only. Brahat, infinity. So then the next level teaching comes, I am Atma Brahma. I am. So now, first is Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. There's a personal aspect to Brahman. I am means the person. I am Atma Brahman means impersonal. This self is Brahman. This is not me as an individual. The self is impersonal. It is not me which I think as an individual which is universal. The self is universal, which is actually impersonal. I am Atma. This self is impersonal. This self, instead of saying myself, I'll say this self is universal. Right? So what will happen if you say I am universe? Then there's an ego component there. Everybody else, hey, you don't understand realization. No, you are not realized. I am Brahman. You are not. Right? Now you bring in the concept of this I am is personal I am. From personal I am you move into impersonal I am. I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. This means impersonal. Are you getting what I am saying?
How can it be this when I am separate and this?
That when you separate out the body, mind, instrument from the self. Who says this is using the instrument, you are saying this self. The knowing principle is separate from the instrument. So far, Aham Brahmasmi contemplation, you are using the instrument and you are becoming one with the instrument and one with the totality. Now you are separating yourself from the instrument. This self is Brahman.
This is not the one. This self is Brahman.
This self is Brahman.
Like when you see in the mirror.
Yeah.
This self is Brahman.
Yes. It is like seeing the reflection in the mirror and you see the reflection. Earlier you are identifying the body and mind. Now in the reflection, the entire universe is your reflection. You are saying I am the totality. I am Brahman. Right? So how you are moving? First level you are a small ego. Because of the ego you are suffering. So now you are expanding your ego. Your identity with the body and mind is there. But you start understanding that I am a part of the totality. And I am the totality as existence. So you are still looking at your mirror reflection and thinking that you are the reflection. Like your face is in the mirror and you're seeing the reflection and saying, oh, this is I am. Oh, see how beautiful I am the universe. Right? Now you look back and say, oh, this is reflection. I am. This self is Brahman. I am seeing principle, knowing principle, separate from the seen. I am Atma Brahma. Are we clear? Now, this I am Atma, the knowing principle, is Pradnanam Brahma, awareness. This is next level of teaching. First level starting Tattvamasi is the Upadesha Vakya. I am Atma Brahma is a meditation, contemplation. Aham Brahmasmi is a meditation, contemplation. I am Atma Brahma is a separation process from the seer and seen. Aham Pradnanam Brahma is you recognize the true nature of self-awareness. Awareness is not a reflection. Awareness is non-dual. Now what happened to your concept of infinity now? Infinity is gone. The infinity and finiteness both are in the mind. Now is called Parabrahma or the Supreme Reality. That first level Parabrahma, Aham Brahmasmi, Saguna Brahma, the totality, manifest reality. The second level of Aham Brahmasmi is I am Atma Brahma, this self, which is not the manifest universe, this self, which is Brahman, it's called Parabrahma. Here there is no concept of small or big, there is no concept of ego. The ego only brings the concept of infinity and finite. Right? There is no infinity now, there is no finite now. There is no world, there is no space, there is no time. I am pure awareness. I am Pradnanam. Pradnanam Asmi. I am Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi means I am Pradnanam Asmi. In Pradnana there is no world, there is no time, there is no space, there is no concept of infinity, there is no concept of finiteness. Right? That's pure existence. Pure awareness. Now why this is called Parabrahman? Why it's called Brahman means also infinity. Brahman means infinity. Why it's called Parabrahman? It is beyond infinity. What is beyond infinity? The infinity is possible when there is finite is there. The concept of finite is there. Concept is possible only in the mind. The big or small is possible in the mind. But in Parabrahman, the big is not there, small is there, not there, time is not there, space is not there. Parabrahman is free from all concept of limitation, concept of knowledge and ignorance. He is free, totally. Huh?
Only awareness.
Final realization is Pradnanamasmi. I am Pradnana. I am pure awareness. That's the final realization. You start with the Aham Brahmasmi. Then you realize that Aham Parabrahma. And Aham Parabrahma means Pradnanamasmi. I am pure awareness. In pure awareness, there is no time, there is no space, there is no body, there is no mind, there is no intellect, there is no limitation of any kind. It is beyond the concept of Brahman or infinity. Is this clear? This is the final realization. So many people end up with the Aham Brahmasmi. I am infinity. So still that sense of individuality is not gone. Sense of personality is not gone. Finally, the personality is merged with the personality of the totality, Ishvara. But that same personality has to be dissolved. And finally, the ego is not there. I am pure awareness. Now, entire this process has to happen through Atma Vichara only, self-enquiry only, enquiring into the nature of the self. Self-enquiry only can lead. When the mind starts looking at source, mind starts dissolving. By asking right questions, the mind starts losing its assumptions. The enquiry process takes you from the body-mind complex to the totality, to the total infinity of the totality, to the self which is pure awareness beyond the total, beyond infinity. Entire thing happens through Jnana, Atma Vichara. Don't be under the impression that it will happen in any other means. By inquiring into your nature, by questioning your assumptions, by questioning your belief systems, okay? Of course, taking the help of scriptures, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Vayam Atma Brahma, Pradnanamasmi, Aham Brahmasmi, Pradnanam Brahma, you start understanding I am the totality at the first level, Aham Brahmasmi, then I am Parabrahman, beyond the totality, pure awareness, where there is no concept of time, space, anything. This is what you really experience in deep sleep, bliss. There's not even a concept that is infinity. Are you getting what I'm saying? Infinity is also a concept. Is this clear? Understanding clear, Gayatri?
Yeah.
So we'll stop for the day. Tomorrow we'll take up the next topic.